Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to another Cinema Showdown Sunday. And for today, we will be comparing two of the latest and biggest movies in the MCU and in box office history. Avengers Endgame versus Avengers Infinity War. Round 1 is going to be the plot. Both of these movies essentially focus on very similar things, and that is the search for the Infinity Stones. And they also both do quite a bit of jumping around, following different groups, doing different things during their search. But where Endgame thrives in this category is that it essentially takes you through the MCU's greatest hits. You're going back to the first Avengers, to Thor the Dark World, to the first Guardians. While Thor the Dark World isn't necessarily the best of the MCU, but you are getting to experience these movies again and from a different point of view, and it's kind of filling in the blanks for a certain few things that could have been considered plot holes or continuity errors. And the team all has one single purpose. They all jump down at the same time, end up in different parts of time, and all come back with the Infinity Stones to the same time. More often than not, the team is together throughout the majority of the movie. Where Infinity War sort of falters in this category is the fact that the groups aren't really together for the vast majority of the movie. We're in a lot smaller groups. Some of them do kind of meet up, and that's where you get the end battles on Titan and Wakanda, but like I said, they're not all together. And even then, Thor, Rocket, and Groot don't really come to the Battle of Wakanda till about halfway through, so you're getting a much more broken up story with IW, and a lot of the characters want different things out of this. In Endgame, they all want an Infinity Stone. They all have one singular purpose, whereas Infinity War, it's all different things, and there's quite a few different motives thrown in here. Therefore, I'm going to have to give round 1 to Avengers Endgame. Round 2 is going to be the action. Now, while Endgame did have the biggest, best, most epic finale to ever be on the theater screen, and although it is a good portion of the last act of the movie, despite how big and grand and awesome it is, that's pretty much the only main section of action in this movie. Infinity War actually has two big finales going on at the same time, as well as a few little skirmishes scattered throughout the whole movie. Of course, you have the little skirmish in New York where you have Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange taking on Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian, and then you have other little skirmishes like the other two children of Thanos trying to capture Vision, and then of course we have Cap, Black Widow, Falcon, all of them interfere. So although I absolutely adore Endgame's final battle, there's just a lot more action going on throughout all of the runtime of Avengers Infinity War. Therefore, round 2 is going to have to go to Avengers Infinity War. Round 3 is going to be the impact on the universe. As we all know, the MCU is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All of these films are connected in one way or another, and these big Avengers films are meant to bring all those characters from their solo or smaller team outings all together. So there always has to be a certain level of connectivity, of continuity. Now, although Infinity War did have the snap, we knew that these characters were going to come back. I mean, everybody did. Not for a second did anyone think that these characters weren't going to come back. But that's not to say that Infinity War did not have some lasting effects. Of course, Loki, Heimdall, and a large majority of Asgard now wiped out. The original Gamora is dead and will stay dead. Vision is dead and will stay dead as far as we know. But let's just face it, Endgame has a lot going on. We have Iron Man / Tony Stark's big sacrifice. He is officially done. Cap goes back in time, stays there with Peggy, he hands off the shield, and he retires as an old man. Thor leaves Asgard and goes with the Guardians. The Guardians are on the search for the new Gamora, the 2014 version of Gamora. Of course, the Russos have said themselves too, also in regards to Cap, that you have to wonder, he created that branching timeline, how did he get back to the main timeline? So there's more of a story in there. We have Professor Hulk now, we have the Wakanda help facilities, putting the world back together, and of course, Thanos is now permanently gone. We had the Thanos from the main timeline, got his head hacked off, and then this other version of Thanos that invaded the main timeline, got completely dusted, as well as his army. And of course, who could forget, Black Widow also made the ultimate sacrifice and is now gone too. Although there were some lasting effects from Infinity War, there's just no denying the massive impact and the complete shift and change that we are going to see in the MCU going forward because of Avengers Endgame. Therefore, Endgame takes round 3. Round 4 is going to be the comedy. comedy has become an essential thing throughout Marvel movies. Some, of course, do it better than others. Now, although Endgame did have some comedy, for the most part, it is a pretty somber film. I mean, the whole first act is pretty gloomy. The second act is where we get the vast majority of the comedy. Infinity War ends up giving you a much more lighthearted experience. It is able to keep up the comedy at a healthy pace, and it is interjected very seamlessly. Just little bits and pieces of comedy scattered throughout, and of course they even have time in their final battle to have comedy going on too, like on the Battle of Wakanda, when Thor finally gets there, he's talking to Steve Rogers, and he's like,
"Your haircut? Noticed you've copied my beard. Oh, by the way, this is a friend of mine, Tree.
I am Groot!
I am Steve Rogers."
So Infinity War was able to put much more comedy scattered throughout the whole film, while Endgame takes a very different approach to being much more dramatic in the first and third act and only really having bits and pieces of comedy throughout its second act. Therefore, round 4 is going to go to Infinity War. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the 5th and final round of this battle, and it is going to be memorable moments. IW, of course, has the snap, as I've said time and time again, quite possibly the most shocking ending of the 21st century in film, quite possibly of all time. And you have other such things like Gamora's death, Vision's death, Thor's entrance to the Battle of Wakanda, and Star-Lord's epic meltdown, leading to Thanos actually winning the battle. And then we switch over to Endgame. And of course, Endgame, you have a few things that were mentioned earlier on, like Tony Stark's big sacrifice, Captain America handing over the shield and finally retiring. We get a small glimpse into the life that he finally got to live with Peggy, the whole time traveling sequence, and within that, we get Captain America versus Captain America. We get a homage to the Winter Soldier elevator scene. We have Black Widow's ultimate sacrifice, and then we get to the final battle. We have Captain America wielding Mjolnir, all the female Avengers coming together, and of course you have my personal favorite moment of any of the MCU films, and that is when you hear on your left through Captain America's comms, and you see the portal open up in the background, and then the entire MCU pours through those portals. So many epic moments throughout the entire film. While Infinity War does have the snap and some other pretty big moments, there's just no denying not only the number, but the pure epic scope, scale, and size of the moments found within Endgame, and moments that will have a much more profound impact on the MCU going forward. Therefore, I'm going to have to give the 5th and final round and crown to Avengers Endgame. So if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know who would you have picked to win this battle. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.